breaking down Red Raider baseball like only we can. This is the Talkin Baseball podcast from Double T 97.3 and DoubleTSportsNetwork.com.
Welcome into another episode of the Talkin Baseball podcast alongside Jamie Lent. I'm Chois Woodman. This podcast, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Andrus Brothers. Jamie, we are on the other side of another weekend series loss. There's been quite a few of those this year. But I feel a little different about this one than some others. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything or anything like that. But you had a 3-11 start to the season. Then you go win 3 in a row against Houston. And our big question, you and I talked about last time, a lot of Tech baseball fans have posed this question. Will the real Red Raiders please stand up? Which version of Texas Tech is real? Was it the 3-11 version or the one where you win 3 in a row against Houston? And while you didn't take the series against TCU, you were very close to doing so. What's your answer to that question after this past weekend?
Yeah, I feel like what you did this weekend was, I wouldn't necessarily say a continuation of what you did against Houston, because in Houston you played really clean baseball. You didn't give up any unearned runs. In the series against TCU, you gave up 7 unearned runs on Friday. You gave up 1 on Saturday. And when you're losing an extra inning game, every run is really important. So that was a costly one on Sunday. I feel like TCU is a good baseball team. I know they were coming off the loss to Arizona State, but I think Arizona State's a really good team. They won another series this past weekend against Kansas at home. But I feel like the Red Raiders are still trending in the right direction. It was absolutely a series that you could have won. Really, you play 1 inning of bad baseball, and that's in the 5-run third inning on Friday night, where you had two defensive miscues, 1 an error on the first baseman, 1 on a fly ball to center field that the center fielder just loses it in the sun, and that's just plain bad luck. It happens. It's not as if center fielder wasn't prepared or wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, or looking in the wrong direction, or checking his email, or on Twitter. I mean, anyway, it was a situation where it's just bad luck, and that changed that inning completely, and it led to a 5-run inning. And after that, Coach Tadlock, down by 5 runs, elected to go to some seldom used arms in the bullpen that needed some work, and they got some work, and hopefully they're going to be better for that. But it led to a blowout, and we've seen that before plenty of times in Big 12 baseball. You lose on Friday, and you save your high-leverage arms for the next 2 days. And that game plan was working for the Red Raiders right up until, you lost on Sunday.
Sure.
You played 2 extra innings, and you hadn't run out of arms yet. And so that's a good sign. That shows you the depth and shows you what you've been able to put together as a staff, and hopefully that's something positive moving forward. But I come out of the weekend, Choice, feeling extremely disappointed because you were so close, so incredibly close to taking that series. You had a bunch of different opportunities on Sunday where you make a play here or there on defense. You walk a few less guys, you get a key hit, you don't hit into double plays. You had 4 of them on Sunday, and you win that game. And you win that series, and everybody feels great about the Red Raiders right now, having played 2 series and have 2 series wins. But you didn't get it done. But I don't think you should feel like the team's playing terrible right now, because I definitely don't feel that way at all. I think you're still playing good baseball, and the schedule gets a little bit tougher for you again next weekend because you're going on the road to play Kansas State. But in an interesting trend, for whatever reason, the Big 12 road teams have won more than the home teams so far this year.
Definitely weird.
As far as the series go, the road team has won 8 out of 14. And so hopefully that trend will continue at Kansas State, who is one of the teams who has won both of their first 2 series. And Choice, after the first 2 weekends of the year in Big 12 play, remember you were 3-11 coming in. After the first 2 weekends, you played 1 on the road, you played 1 at home. You're 1 game out of first place in the Big 12 Conference. So you're right there in the mix. Yes, yesterday was really disappointing. No question. When I say yesterday, Sunday was really disappointing. But you're right there. You're still playing good baseball.
I think my reaction, Jamie, I'm right there with you. Disappointed, frustrated that you weren't able to take that series, but not discouraged.
Right.
I think that's where I walk away from that. Friday felt a lot more like the 3-11 team, but Saturday and Sunday you looked much more like the team that took 3 in Houston.
Sometimes you just have to lose that Friday night battle to win the war.
Sometimes, yeah.
And if you go all in when you're down 4 or 5 runs on Friday night, halfway through the game, and you use some of your best bullpen arms, and then you don't come back and win that game, then you've set yourself up for failure the rest of the weekend. Again, it was working up until you just didn't get the big hit in the 9th on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's obviously a question we've gotten quite a bit. The decision on Sunday, if you missed it, Texas Tech gets the first 2 runners on in the bottom of the 9th inning. It's a 5-5 tie ball game, and Coach Tadlock elects to have Damian Bravo's up, and he elects to have him bunt and try to move the runners over to second and third and get a runner at third with less than 2 outs. Unfortunately, Bravo pops up the first pitch he sees, and it's an easy catch for the catcher. Ultimately, you don't score in the inning, and
one of those double play balls comes right after
you get a double play ball after that. So
you just didn't execute in that situation.
That's how I look at it. I don't know that there's necessarily a right answer. If Coach Tadlock would have decided for Damian Bravo, who's one of your no doubt one of your better swingers of the bat on the team, if he wants to keep the bat in his hands, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But I think the analytics would tell you to lay down that bunt there and try to get those runners over, and it just didn't execute there. So unfortunately, that contributed to the loss. Trenton Parrish was really good in the outing,
best we've seen him this year. He was terrific. If there's anything that comes out of yesterday that I'm excited about, it was the way he threw the ball. He was really, really good for the Red Raiders, and he gave you 4 innings before he ultimately gave up the 2-run homer on a really good pitch too, a breaking ball down. And Stroh-Snyder, who's a terrific hitter for TCU, we'll be watching him play in the big leagues one day, goes down and hits it well over the right field wall, and you just give him a little bit of credit for that.
There are very few times you see major leaguers able to take a pitch like that over the fence. And Stroh-Snyder, it was as good of a hit as you will see. He's almost scraping his bat on the turf. That pitch is well out of the zone, but he finds a way to park it. And
tip of the cap.
You got to give credit to a good hitter. So, which he was good all weekend long, unfortunately, from a Texas Tech perspective. But you walk away very close to winning the series. You can't hang your head because, like you talked about, there's a pretty big team on the other side, a pretty good team on the other side. We'll preview that with Kansas State as well as, depending when you're listening to this, a matchup with Tarleton in the midweek. That's coming up next, but first a word from our friends at Andrus Brothers.
When you want the brand in West Texas roofing, there's only one company to call, Andrus Brothers Roofing. Like our Red Raiders, Andrus Brothers knows that to win, you have to be better than your competition and you have to dominate in all phases. With over 40 years experience, Andrus Brothers has mastered these concepts. So when the high winds and debris damage your roof, there's only one company to call, Andrus Brothers Roofing. Accept no substitutes. Stick with the starters on the ABR winning team. Andrus Brothers Roofing, we nail it every time.
All right, Jamie, up next for the Red Raider baseball team. Obviously, the weekend, we'll get to that in a moment with Kansas State, but depending when you're consuming this podcast, maybe this game is in progress or already happened. But Tarleton State is a midweek game, and we haven't had many midweek games for Texas Tech this year.
It'll be just the third.
Yeah, you had one rescheduled that you were supposed to play against New Mexico last week, but this one just the third. And this Tarleton State team, a pretty peculiar one. They've tested themselves quite a bit this year.
They've scheduled pretty tough. They don't have a sparkling record at this point, but they've scheduled tough, and they've given teams challenges, including the TCU team that you just fell to, a lot of close losses to good teams. So it's a program that a ton of junior college transfers and transfers from other D1 schools, maybe going down a little bit to a smaller D1. but they look like a team that's playing hard and can challenge the big boys. So Red Raiders have to come on Tuesday, not licking their wounds from Sunday,
right,
and be ready to go.
Yeah, and one question that we've had from the audience a little bit is, do we see TJ Pompey in this game or the weekend's game? Because TJ Pompey, we didn't even mention that, you're without one of your best hitters the entire TCU series because of what Coach Tadlock called a day-to-day injury.
Yeah, TJ a little bit banged up, and it looked like he was a lot better on Sunday than he was on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
So I would imagine that he'll be back out there on Tuesday. You want to see him get out there and see some live pitching and get some swings and see if he feels better. He definitely was, like I said, looking better. So hopefully that's a situation where you'll have him back on Tuesday. But if not, I got to tell you, young Coleman Ryan was really good.
Very good.
This weekend. He came up with some clutch hits, multi-hit games on both Saturday and Sunday. Had the one mistake on defense early in Sunday's game, but beyond that was good as well. He stepped up. I mean, you probably don't win Saturday's game without his performance on Saturday. So he did a really good job filling in for Pompey, and it almost makes you wonder, okay, what do you keep him in the lineup? What do you do there? I think Coach Tadlock at this point is looking for a little bit more from the third base and DH role. And so if you get Pompey back, do you consider putting TJ back at third, even though he's looked more comfortable defensively at shortstop?
Would you even consider putting Coleman Ryan at third in that situation?
Don't know if Coleman – I've never seen him play third in any of the scrimmages, but that doesn't mean that he can't do it.
Sure.
So sometimes ball players are just ball players,
That's
right?
true.
You stick them out there and give them a glove and let them do their thing. So don't know, but those are questions that Coach Tadlock has, and we'll see what he does moving forward.
Yeah. So on to the weekend. It is important to state that you need to win these midweek games, obviously, because your non-conference record is ultimately
not very good.
Could be something that bites you later. So it makes the importance on these midweeks. Normal year, maybe you go through and think, okay, you dropped one to Tarleton, not that big of a deal. But because of what you did in the non-conference, you need to find a way to pick up some wins there. On to Kansas State. A lot of purple on the schedule this weekend.
No doubt.
Too much. But you head to Manhattan, Jamie, and this is a place that it's odd because there's been a lot of years where you felt like you've been a good baseball team or the better baseball team, and they've beat you up there.
Yeah.
This year, they are a good baseball team.
Yeah, even in the years where you were way better than them, it was hard to get a sweep up there.
Yeah.
And so now it feels like this is a dogfight. I mean, they have 2 series wins so far this year. They've not played the cream of the crop, so to speak, with Utah and Baylor, but they do were able to take 5 of their first 6. So they've been good so far this year. They've got a couple top 25 wins already in non-conference play. So this is a talented baseball team, and like you said, they're good at home. Weather is usually a factor there. I think it's supposed to be cold on Sunday, but we'll have to see if the Red Raiders can kind of find what they had in Houston and showed a lot of this past weekend, transfer that back onto the road, and get to Manhattan and give Kansas State a little bit more than they've seen in their first 2 series when they've really rolled.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting to watch is what happens on Friday, because you had that one really good start from Mac Hewer. You had a couple of good starts in a row, but one really good start against Houston, and then Hewer, along with the defense, struggles on Friday night. It wasn't a bad outing from Hewer, but it wasn't his best stuff either.
Yeah, well, he ultimately only ended up giving up 1 earned run. But like you said, it was not his best night. And the 2 starts, Grand Canyon and Houston before that, were really, really good. So you're hoping you can get back to seeing Mac do that. And you're hoping that his defense gives him some support behind him.
So another thing that'll be interesting to watch, we've already touched on it a little bit, but what does this lineup look like? What are you going to do with Coleman Ryan? Is TJ Pompey back? Do you shift Garrett Boehm around a little bit after he's been struggling some? Who's in the DH role? What in the world is this lineup going to look like against a really good Kansas State team?
Yeah, no question. And I think that Coach Tadlock has tried to give an opportunity to Boehm and to Peyton Schultz to try to get them going at third base or at DH. And so it'll be interesting to see if maybe he elects to give somebody else a shot to do that. Maybe a guy like Antonelli Salvatore, who, early on in the season was swinging it well, and he's kind of gone through a tough stretch. So maybe Salvatore gets some more at-bats there. Or is it a guy like Kendall Johnson, who can really, really defend out there in the outfield? You make your defense a little bit better, and then you get more speed as well. And so maybe you see Kendall Johnson, who got a start in Grand Canyon. Maybe he gets an opportunity, and that moves one of those, whether it be Hughes into play first, and Villeneuve to DH, or Hughes to DH, or Damian Bravo into play second base. I mean, you got all these options with different guys. So I'm sure Coach Dadlock will keep tweaking.
Yeah, I think we will continue to see that. And I think one more thing that you walk away encouraged from the past weekend is what you've already talked about, but hopefully you can see that in Big 12 play as well, is your bullpen work has, I think, really stood out. And you talked about it coming into the season. Last year, that was probably the biggest hindrance for Texas Tech baseball is the lack of depth overall in the pitching, but the bullpen in particular. This year, would you call it a strength?
I would. Absolutely, I would. I mean, I think you look back at this weekend and you look at Hutera and you look at Seabird and, you look at Logan Beavis and you already mentioned Trendon Parrish. Those are guys that all threw really, really well this weekend. And you want to get Zach Crotchfeld going again. He missed last weekend in Houston and then just pitched to a couple batters on Sunday for the Red Raiders, but he was a key part early on, so you want to get him going once again. Connor Mohan's been really good, but just hasn't gotten any chances really in Big 12 play yet this year. Same thing with Will Jordan. You want to see Jordan get back going because he was dominant for a while there for the Red Raiders. So there's lots of options there. I know I'm leaving out 3, 4, 5 guys that have been good for you as well, but there are lots of options there, and I do think, Choice, that you would call your bullpen one of your strengths.
Well, we'll see if it can be a strength this weekend. See if you can get some starting pitching as a strength as well, and if the Red Raiders can find a way to take 2 of 3, you feel good about the weekend.
Would be huge. Be huge.
Yeah, you can get 2 of 3 on the road in Manhattan. That really bolsters Texas Tech, and I think you would be viewed as one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in this league if you do that. But until then, we will we'll say so long to you, and hope you tune in again next week, and hopefully talking about a few more wins. For Jamie Lent, I'm Chois Woodman. It's been Talkin Baseball here at part of the Double T Sports Network.
Breaking down Red Raider baseball like only we can. This is the Talkin Baseball podcast from Double T 97.3 and DoubleTSportsNetwork.com.